Good afternoon, my friends. This is Paul, and today I feel immensely honored that one of my viewers, whose username is LotoDGIII, who gave me permission to use his real name, which is David, made a me of yours truly in Tomodachi Life Living the Dream, and then had him interact with a whole bunch of other characters based on franchises and games that I love. So I thought that it would be really fun if I went through some of these screenshots and pictures that he shared with me and commentate on what I think about each of them and how accurate they are to the real me. I won't be showing every single picture he sent for the sake of possibly wanting to avoid bullying or stereotyping or any of that stuff, because you'd be surprised how many popular streamers will get stuff like someone is hitting on their wife on their island and then they get jealous. It's like, it's just a game, but not everyone thinks that way. So to avoid that kind of thought, I'll just stick to the ones where I have something substantial to say that I don't think constitutes bullying. But enough talk, let's get into the pictures. Well, the best place to start would be, what does my me actually look like? And it is shockingly accurate. If for some reason you have never seen what I look like, here's a short little clip that I did. He even recreated my infamous vote for pizza shirt, which is so perfect. And honestly, I do think that this captures my essence really well. Eyebrows are a bit lower than my actual eyebrows are, which, to be fair, I would like eyebrows like that, but I think it kind of gives this vibe that, like, I'm both serious and friendly at the same time, and I really like it. Next, we have a graph of the top 6 people that I tend to really like, and what is so cool about this graph is that all of these characters are from video games that I have played and enjoyed, and I feel like for the most part, I would actually get along with these people. So Sumire is from Persona 5 Royal. I won't say too much more because that's a bit of a spoiler, but in general, I think she has a pretty nice personality. And you know me, I'm a sucker for Persona games, especially Persona 5. And so that's great to have some representation here. Gold Mary is from Fire Emblem Engage. I'm not a big fan of the characters in that game, if I'm being honest. Gold Mary just feels kind of vain and potentially doing a lot of gender stereotyping. But I feel like if I were to ever talk to her, it would be a good opportunity to promote body positivity and just say whether you're 1 pound or 100 pounds, God still loves you either way. Chidori is from Persona 3. And she is the type of person that's initially very reserved and doesn't like talking to people, but gradually warms up more as the game progresses. And I don't think I'd have the courage that Junpei does to be able to consistently talk to someone that standoffish. I think in real life, I would probably be the type of person that would like say hi first, and if the person just grunted or like looked away, I'd be like, okay, that's their cue that they want me to move the heck on. So I guess I should give myself a little bit of credit that I know subtext better than Junpei does. Yukari is another Persona 3 person, and I like Yukari quite a lot. I like her straight talking attitude. I like how she doesn't really mince her words. And she gets in some lighthearted jabs at Junpei here and then, which feels exactly like the sort of thing I would do if I was forced to live in a dorm with a guy like that. So I do think that us being great friends is pretty accurate. Then we have Vale and Alir, both from Fire Emblem Engage. And I like Vale quite a lot. I think the twist with her is really neat. And she's just a general sweetheart that I think I would absolutely love, considering almost like a little sister of sorts. And then Alir doesn't have much personality in Fire Emblem Engage. But in general, I think Alir is a likable enough person. I just think that that's her only real personality trait, is that she's friendly and wants to like make everyone happy, which is great. I tend to get along with those kinds of people. I just think she'd be a better friend than she is a character. This one is pretty hilarious because Chidori is not really the most outgoing and friendly person in the world in Persona 3. So the fact that anyone could have fun with her just cracks me up. But I've been told that I'm the kind of guy that can get along with almost anyone, and apparently that's how my Mii actually is on the island, is he gets along with everyone but also has his moments where he just feels like being by himself and playing video games, and I feel like that captures my essence really nicely. Now, I can't tell if this is David's interpretation of what he thinks my room would look like, or if this is supposed to be Vale's room. I kind of feel like it's the latter, because when you first meet Vale, it's inside a sunny field with lots of blue clouds. It does seem like that is how Vale would greet me. You know, it seems pretty accurate to her in-game character. And I like blue quite a lot, so I can definitely approve of the color choices in this room. This is also an interesting turn of phrase, because I like talking about myself to an extent, but I don't like exclusively talking about myself. You guys have probably noticed on live streams that if I'm the only one talking for a long period of time, I typically get really tired and exhausted, because the sound of my own voice even wears me out. If this were to be a representation of a live stream, then yes, it is very accurate. But if someone asked something like, oh, Paul, I was wondering if you could tell me about your mission trips, or what are some of your favorite video games, then I will yap like crazy. As long as I'm not the only one doing the yapping. As long as there's, as I call it, a tennis match of conversation, then I'm happy. So I've actually never played a Panzer Dragoon Saga game, but at the same time, I feel like that's pretty accurate because I am constantly talking about value, and I'm usually very critical of games that are overpriced with not enough content to justify the price. So I would imagine what my Mii is actually saying here is, are you kidding me? You went out and bought something that you would rather just rent from Gamefly or the library? Like, do you want to throw your money down the toilet? I can imagine that is what he's saying in a less animated tone of voice. This here is pretty inaccurate because I really don't like Dragon Quest all that much. Dragon Quest XI I thought was decent. It's just that I think I had more complaints than I did things that I liked about it. To be fair, the only reason why I ended up beating that game was because I was curious about the story resolution and I liked how the music was symphonic. But in general, Dragon Quest is just such an old school RPG that has hardly even evolved, kind of like Pokemon now that I think about it. And I just don't think I'll ever play the games again unless, I don't know, say it crosses over with Fire Emblem or something like that. Definitely not the kind of thing I would talk about, because I'm pretty thrifty with my money. So instead of encouraging people to get rich quickly, I would probably say something more like, here's how to save your money. I know I can be definitely a bit of a prick when it comes to that, because like I've definitely had people getting mad at me in their comment sections where I'll say things like, why don't you just rent the games? And they'll be like, well, some of us like to actually own our games. And I'll be like, I didn't say you couldn't own the game. I just wish more of these big Nintendo YouTubers would talk about renting as an option so that people don't think they have to buy subpar experiences. And especially when people are planning their weddings, like, do not get me involved in wedding planning, because I will make it the cheapest, most doable wedding possible without any of the flair and any of the symbolism. I'll be like, save all the money and make it the most boring wedding in the world. So if you were to alter the words a little bit, it would be pretty accurate to myself. So my drawing skills are pretty bad. Like, I epically failed at art class, and if you really want to know a representation of what something would look like if I tried to draw it, just look at footage of Century of Anticipation. I also have a review of it. If I were to copy Chidori drawing art, it would probably look pretty amateur in comparison. Although, in fairness, one of my friends watched my Tomodachi Life review, and she said that she really liked how well I made Joker and Futaba in particular. So she said, maybe you're just a different kind of artist. So that's helped me to not be quite as hard on myself as I used to be. I do actually really like Danpa, so that is a very hilarious conversation there. Considering that Danganronpa 2 takes place on a tropical island, and considering that Danganronpa 2x2 has a new scenario, there very well could be a goldfish that's involved in the plot of that game. And so if this ends up being foreshadowing, then kudos to you, David. You are a genius. 999 is an absolute masterpiece. It's part of my favorite franchise of games, as I've never played a bad Zero Escape game. And I highly recommend it to anyone who likes escape rooms, who doesn't mind a lot of reading, and as long as you have a very strong stomach, because they are quite M-rated. In fact, the person who took these photos is one of the very first people to have actually requested my guide to the best set of decisions and like which order to play the game in that'll make it the most sense. So I just feel so honored that all of that hard work I did in trying to make the story accessible was actually something that someone said, yeah, I want to do that so that by the time I finish playing these games, I understand them the best without a whole lot of to be continueds and what the heck was that moments. So hopefully this will facilitate a greater discussion when I eventually do that spoiler live stream about Zero Escape. Go figure! There's a reason I'm the Catholic gaming nerd, after all. And if it's Tears of the Kingdom, then it's doubly impressive. Although I probably wouldn't play under a tree because of the glare. Although to be fair, if I were playing outside, I probably would play under a tree, if anywhere, because I wouldn't want to get too much sun on myself. And the fact that it's at night is a really neat touch, because generally speaking, I like night times better than daytimes. You know, I am that type of person that is constantly telling people that hangouts are underrated. I feel like that is exactly what I would do with the type of person Yukari is I would say, hey, I'm not interested in romance, but hanging out would be cool. Now, granted, this is assuming that I am also a teenager at the same time Yukari is, or that this Yukari is older, so that I'm not getting some inappropriate stuff. But if I was hanging out with someone my age, I think there's way too many people that put emphasis on romance and sexual tension, but I think there's definitely a time and a place where just having casual, non-sexual hangouts with good friends, even if they're of the opposite sex, is not only healthy, but it encourages this idea that we are a communion of saints, and the communion of saints is not particular about who they hang out with. Technically, I prefer cheeseburgers, but close enough. I actually don't like sauerkraut all that much. In fact, I kind of detest it, and I think I'm even allergic to it. So I would probably just listen and say like, oh yeah, that's nice that you like it, but I would probably much rather have a slice of pizza any day. I actually do surprisingly like blowing bubbles quite a lot, especially when I'm doing it for my nieces and nephews. And the idea that I could do it with a friend actually gives me some ideas for the next time I'm at the lake with certain friends of mine. I really do love Burger King quite a lot. Usually that's my go-to restaurant whenever people ask where I want to go. Most of my friends get very annoyed when I say that, because they say, Paul, you never want to go anywhere else. And I say, that's not true. I like McDonald's and Wendy's as well. And they're just like, oh, brother, can't you ever try any other kind of food besides cheeseburgers and fries? That being said, I don't really like Whoppers all that much because the meat tastes different and they put too much stuff on it. Like, I don't like mayonnaise and I don't like onions and I don't like tomatoes. Whenever I do go to Burger King, I get the usual double cheeseburger, fries, and if it's been a while since I've had sweets, a watermelon lemonade, and a Hershey's pie. Ah, Junko Enoshima, another Danganronpa reference. Too bad the internet is not shy about completely spoiling aspects of her character that are, in my opinion, better left to discover on your own. Yeah, I'm not much of a metaphor kind of guy, so I certainly wouldn't be flattered by that. I'd more be like, I need the nearest aspirin because you're confusing the heck out of me. To be fair, as I've gotten older, I do try to, like, hear people out if they're gonna talk about, like, abstract stuff. But in general, you get me talking about anything besides psychology, and even just talking about it now is literally giving me a headache, so I think I'll just shut up. He knows me too well! I love Little Caesars pizza. In fact, that's my favorite type of pizza. A very unpopular opinion in my family, because none of them agree with me, and they are baffled that that is my opinion. And every single time, I have to remind them, taste buds. It's as simple as that. That is true. When I was a teenager, I once ate an entire Little Caesars pizza in one sitting. I was clutching my stomach the rest of the day. So ever since then, I have been a lot more health conscious and a lot less prideful, because the idea was that I wanted to just say that I did it for the sake of bragging rights. So nowadays, I'm just like, eat until you're full and then call it a day so that you can be at least somewhat healthy. That actually does feel quite in character for Vale, as she seems like a very encouraging person in Fire Emblem Engage. She doesn't talk about pizza in that game, but I do feel like that would be a very interesting experiment of just like, yeah, if Fire Emblem was suddenly introduced to the world of pizza, how would they react? Wait, I just remembered. There's a cafe in Fire Emblem Engage, so if I ever play that game again, which I probably won't unless it has a Switch 2 edition, I'll need to double check if they have pizza at that cafe. Well, I am an optimist, and I have been depression-free for 10 years and 2 months. And I'm constantly encouraging people to be optimistic. Doesn't mean you can't be sad, like I get sad all the time, but to stay sad and be constantly in this doom and gloom mindset is not going to do you any favors. So my trick for staying out of depression has always been, think of something that you're looking forward to. Anything, no matter how small, even if it's something as simple as, I'm going to have a bowl of cereal and it's my favorite cereal. Or, I'm going to go get a cool drink of water because it's hot outside. Something. Just find the tiniest thing in your life, and I guarantee you'll have a much better outlook on life. Unless you're the type that doesn't like repetition. But even then, there are variables in life that you can look forward to. So this is very much the kind of thing that I would be advocating, and I'd probably be further to the, or closer to the front of the pack rather than just sitting behind letting someone else tell people that. I don't do that particular exercise when I go to the gym, but I have gotten really health conscious lately, so that does feel pretty in character for me, especially since Rosemary's there and she's quite vain. To be just like, okay guys, time to start taking care of our health and making sure that our bodies are working as best as they can by the time they start shutting down. And there you go. Now you got a little bit more of a glimpse into my personality if you already didn't get enough of one in my Tomodachi Life review and in my live streams. So thank you very much, David, for taking these pictures and taking the time to make a me of me. I genuinely just love this idea of more people are able to, I guess, get me around in creative ways besides just saying, oh hey, Paul's a cool dude. Whereas now you can say, like, Paul's a dude on the island, and there are certain things that he and the characters say that are actually indicative of, like, genuinely Paul moments. If you want to thank David for yourself, he comes to my streams pretty frequently. Again, the username he goes by is LotoDGIII. If not, I'm sure he'll read my comments and comment, so then you can comment on his comment. But either way, I hope you appreciate all of his handiwork. I hope you all have a wonderful day. And until the next time, remember to keep the faith, stay epic, and God bless. Bye!